Okay, so I am back for part two. I think we missed some elements of this interview because somebody came on kind of through the whole live stream. It's my mistake. He has a reputation of throwing people off track and having little moments. I should have known better, but nonetheless, um, as I was having my dinner, I remember there's actually more to this live stream, more things that are said which need to be discussed. So let's proceed and let's continue where we left.
Whatever and so forth, and you're like, oh, I love this guy, he's great, he sings the national anthem, like he supports the local club or whatever, right? But that doesn't change the fact that he's still replacing us as a people. It doesn't change the fact that they don't belong here.
So this whole replacement thing, the way he's saying, it's almost as if the context that he's saying it feels as if he's saying that ethnic men are not allowing white men to have children or something. Majority of colored people marry other people in the same community. But of course, like I said in part one, he's not really bothered about having a middle ground, being fair, and looking for any middle ground. He has a very racist standpoint, and that's the only thing he's anchored to. He's not bothered if somebody's Christian. He's not bothered if somebody is a decent person. He's not bothered if somebody has roots and family in this country. He just sees the color of the skin. He hates the color of that skin, and he wants them out. It almost feels to me that he's revolted by people's ethnicity. That's what I am taking from this. I could be wrong. It may not be, his hatred may not be to that level. But let's see. I think I am right, because you soon see when Liam Toffs asks him a couple of certain questions, what he's going to respond with.
That doesn't mean that we hate this person. Once he goes home, I wish him well. Hope he has a great life in their own country. But
that's nonsense. You've already want to do the very worst thing to him, so there's nothing more. So you're satisfied that individual, theoretically, has been ejected, and you couldn't care less. But you're too dishonest to say that.
Here is a problem.
What are your views on Adolf Hitler?
That's a great question to ask somebody who likes Adolf Hitler and likes the Nazi Party, because they will always say two things. I think he was all right in parts, and I think he was misrepresented. Let's see what he says.
Never really been asked that question, to be honest.
That's why you're here.
Some good policies. I wouldn't agree with everything. Probably hugely misunderstood.
I see. Oh, they all say that. He's just not being honest enough to say, well, yeah, I like him. I'm a fan of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. He's just not brave enough to say it.
Wouldn't die on the hill of defending Adolf Hitler, but I would say he's very much misunderstood politician.
What about his Rothschild roots? Is that a problem for you?
I'd say a lot of the stuff that he advocated for in the German people would do wonders for our people right now.
What? Rounding up the non-German people and gassing them? What?
Think about the Nazi regime.
In terms of what way?
Are you for it or against it? Or would you have been?
See, like, what do you think of the Nazi regime? Any healthy-minded person saying, well, they're disgusting, they're terrible. Even when I've done my own independent research, the fact that they were euthanizing people, they were torturing even their own people, let alone people with not the same ethnic background or religious background. They were nasty, evil bastards. He was like, what do you mean?
Been for it, or would you have been?
If I was in Germany in 1930s, I would have been straight behind them.
So you would have been quite happy gassing all them Jews?
Well, that's a conversation for another day.
Oh God. Oh God. I'm not laughing because he's clearly a dangerous human being. Liam just asked him, just in case you missed it, Liam just asked him, so you're for gassing people. And he said, well, that's a conversation for another day. Beyond me.
I wouldn't encourage murdering of any people. But what I'm saying is
That's definitely a conversation for today.
okay, so we can go into it. I very much doubt the figures on
You
that.
did say nothing's off the
Yeah,
table.
yeah, you did,
So
yeah.
would you be for the gassing of the Jews if you was a German back in 1936?
No, I don't think we should have to gas people. I'll just say remove them. This is my position, but I very much doubt the credibility.
Yeah, so what if you were removing somebody that's a Christian and going back to a hellhole like Nigeria or Pakistan? You're basically sending them to their deaths anyway.
Of all of that information. I'm not saying it's all lies, but I don't think everything's as we heard.
Or do you think the numbers have been exaggerated?
Very much so, yes.
Okay. What about, is gassing one Jew too many?
Gassing anyone's too many. You shouldn't be gassing anyone. Like I very much advocate for the most peaceful solution to fix demographic replacement. The position I advocate for with remigration is very much we're going to return you to your homeland peacefully. There's going to be no harm done to you, and both sides are going to live happily ever after. I'm not.
I mean, what is this? Is this narcissism on steroids or something? He's got this ladybird theory, of some story where the SS soldiers knock on your door, say you're leaving, but don't worry, we're forcing you peacefully, and you don't have an option, but you're going to go home, you will be happy, and I know they want to kill you when you get home, but we're going to live happily ever after, and we expect you to. Now stop complaining and get onto the back of the track.
Not here for saying, right, let's just line them all up against the wall and shoot them. That's not the line I would ever advocate for. For one, I'd have my doors kicked off in seconds. And two, I just don't think it's the sort of thing we need to go down the route. British people are never going to get behind something like that, even if that was the solution to the problem. British people are a little bit more moderate, so we wouldn't ever entertain that anyway. So my position...
You're not moderate, mate. I'll be honest. You're not moderate. You're an extremist.
...is I wouldn't entertain that.
I would say you're on the same level as a Islamic preacher that kind of ends up influencing radical people to commit all types of weird things, like Hamza. I would say you are on that level, but that's just my opinion. But I don't think you would agree with that. I think you are narcissistic enough to think that what you are thinking is actually the right way to go about life.
I push for remigration, a peaceful solution to the demographic replacement. No harm will come to anyone.
What about the 500,000?
Well, I think remigration is a good idea for illegal immigrants, and maybe those that have no ability to assimilate into society. But that's pretty much where I draw the line. Obviously, any sane person, anybody with political research would know that Islam needs to be declassified into a terrorist ideology. I think that's fairly straightforward. I think there's a good case for that. In fact, I would happily debate anyone for that. And even that is, all those things is that an extreme point for me and for most people. But what he's saying is anyone that's coloured, even if they're mixed race, even if their mother is white or father is white, they're going to be put on the back of a truck and ferried over to God knows where.
Sikhs, the British Indians that fought in the world wars, that defended our shores.
He doesn't care.
What would you do with those people?
They didn't fight for us. They fought for the empire. They fought for their own self-interests as well.
You see, he's clearly hasn't done his work. So my grandfather fought for this country. I've said that story a number of times. Right? Yeah, there were Indian soldiers that were part of the Indian army fighting part of the Allied army on behalf of India. Yeah. But but that's not every single soldier from that country. So you haven't even got your facts right.
Is that not enough?
No. There's
Okay.
Gurkhas. There's Gurkhas. They fight for us. Most people have a lot of respect for the Gurkhas. But where I come from, the town just over from me, Cheriton, I live in Folkestone, town just over Cheriton, Gurkha stronghold. The whole town is basically Gurkha now. And that's because there's an army base there and they serve there. But they're just foreign mercenaries. They're paid to come over and fight for us. That doesn't mean they get the right to our homeland. They should be paid and sent back. That should be the logical solution.
In terms of meritocracy, what have you done for the country that supersedes what the Sikhs or the specific Sikhs done for our country in the world wars?
I don't think you should ever use that argument. So my ancestors fought for this country, for my people to have a future. They didn't fight for it so Indians can come over and live here and open up a corner shop. Nobody fought for that. Nobody wanted that. If you went back and spoke to all of the veterans, I can guarantee you a good 99% of them would turn around and go, I do not stand for that. I do not want that. So using the argument of they fought for the country, what have you done, is such a ridiculous sort of analogy. This is my country. I don't have to explain why I'm here. Like, my people fought for this country. My people have bled for this country, and they've done it for a future for our people. And now we are betraying their memory by sitting here and even discussing the fact that Indians should be allowed here.
Yeah, so again, we are going somewhat over old ground. So somebody who only classifies and favors one race and one skin color will have these arguments. It's as simple as that. There's nothing more I can say that I've not already covered in regard to that. In regards to that, he clearly does not see colored people ever can be part of his community, and as a consequence, he wants them further away from the country. There's nothing a colored person could do to stay in this country as far as he is concerned. So he's discriminatory based on race and ethnicity. So when I say that is exactly what the Nazis did and projected, I rest my case.
Have you ever had your head kicked in for any of your views?
No, but I have had a gang of Pakistanis turn up at my house with baseball bats once.
That doesn't surprise me. How did that go down?
I just went down for baseball bat. The neighbours went out and they ran off in a car, but it could have went a very different way. I've had like numerous death. I get a death threat every day, but no one really cares about that. It's just part and parcel of the politics.
I'll probably get them now just for platforming you.
Yeah, you may. But
I want to actually, let me interject this. I want to know, am I going to get more backlash for platforming Bonnie Blue or Steve Laws? Put it in the comments. Are you more disappointed in me that I've platformed Steve Laws or Bonnie Blue?
Steve Laws, you bellend.
Now we'll move back to the serious conversation, because I'm interested. Let's just say I fell in love with a Greek woman. Her father's Greek. She's half Greek. She's lived here her whole life, as of her previous family members. I fall in love with her. We procreate. I have a baby. That baby's now quarter Greek. What do you do with my quarter Greek baby?
That wouldn't be such a mixed race argument because you are two Europeans having a child. That's something that has happened throughout history, and unfortunately it's something that's going to continue happening.
Pete, as long as they're white, he's okay-ish with it, right? He would still he maximum would prefer English white only, but when it comes to white skin, he's favorable to that over any colored skin.
It's not something I would encourage, but it's not something I would turn around and go, okay, we're going to round your child up and sling you out. That's not something that I would advocate for. For one, the percentage on people that actually do that is very, very low. And if it's not encouraged as time goes on, it's never going to be a future issue. But as it stands, it's a very low percentage. I wouldn't even put that at the top of any priority whatsoever.
What about if I fell in love with a black woman and we had a mixed race child? Would you separate me from my child?
I wouldn't separate you from your child, but
how would you deal with that situation?
I would encourage you both to leave if that would be the best option.
If you had the power to make one of us leave, would you?
Yeah, non-Europeans I would.
Okay, so you would separate a mother.
So when he says non-Europeans, he basically means anybody with brown skin, whether or not they're mixed race or not.
From their child, if their child was non-European.
No, because I'd let you all go together.
But what if the British...
I'd let you all go together. Oh, like you, nice man.
person had to stay where they are.
But why would that ever be a situation? This is a weird hypothetical where it's
It's just to get inside your mind how extreme
so you
go.
You can take it down to that, like, there are various subjects, nuances in these situations where, for instance, there are people that have been in those situations, and it is complicated. Of course, it is complicated. It's not something that should ever be encouraged.
What, to procreate with another race, or
to mix race? I don't think it should ever be encouraged, because one, it creates a child of nowhere. They're a child that's not part or parcel of their own people, and they're also not part and parcel of the people. So from the mother, say the mother's African and the father's English, you're no longer seen as English, and you're no longer seen as African. You are seen as an other. And it becomes problematic. So this is where a lot of mixed race people have resentment, and a lot of them turn that resentment towards the British people, and they actually promote promote immigration and so forth. So these people, it is a complicated subject. I understand this, but these people have an inherent bias towards their immigrant parent. I've seen it. You must have seen it. Let's use a prime example. Bob Dylan, I Heard You Want Your Country Back. Half Jamaican.
All right, we go to Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's a bit of a prick anyway. But what he's saying there about mixed race, I can't comment about mixed race when it's black and white, because I've seen and heard that the black community not necessarily always accepting a mixed race, black and white individual, and the white not. So I don't know too much about it. I would think Jupiter is probably a best person to speak on that. So let's leave that there. But let's go over to India. So there's a group of people in India called Anglo-Indians, which are basically mixed race Indians. When the British were there, when the British soldiers took for themselves either Indian wives or Indian mistresses, and they had children with them, those children were called Anglo-Indians. Now, they're mixed race, but Indians still classify them as Indians because they were born and raised in India. They speak the local language. They're usually Christian. They're not usually Hindu at all. There are a number of Anglo-Indians that migrated over in the UK as well. I know this because I know some of them. Some of them have even gone across to places like Indonesia and Malaysia, taking their Catholic stroke Church of England religious spirituality with them. So this notion that he's trying to portray, that you have to be ethnic to belong to any country, and this issue is only in the UK, it's not true at all. It's only people like him with racist views that are trying to create this divide, that people cannot be born in a country and be raised within that culture and spiritual life. This is an argument that only racists project.
Half English, everyone in the country was calling for his deportation when he was sitting there saying, "Heard you want your country back." He's a mixed race fella, so the public will move to that.
He's also pro-Islam. I think he probably is Islamic, or he's certainly being paid to push a narrative. So that's a poor example. Everybody was horrified with that man talking that load of crud and that song he was singing about killing certain soldiers. I mean, it was just terrible.
Position when they feel threatened. And this is where the line becomes problematic, because the others, whereas you got the immigrant parent and the English parent, that child belongs to no one, essentially. Even when you fill out your government passport form, it's white British, mixed other. That's what they would be. And unfortunately, these people are victims of immigration, and somewhere along the line, a line's going to have to be drawn in the sand, and that someone's going to have to go, enough is enough. Otherwise, we're going to have a nation that is like Brazil, where everyone's mixed race.
Everybody in Brazil is not mixed race. You get black people, you have white people, you have mixed race people. Brazil does not put, from my understanding, I could be wrong, race at such a priority, right? That's why it is the way it is. And who said nobody wants something like Brazil? I mean, I think Brazil is an extreme example, admittedly, but who are you speaking on behalf of?
Inherent culture. There's no dominant ethnic group. It's just
See, nationalism without God is just dark, demonic, and evil. I just hope that British white people see through this BS and just are not led down a path that's going to get them into a whole heap of, because this is just so dark, this is so dangerous, and I even worry for him. Even Steve Laws, I worry for him what type of dark thoughts he must be having, and it must be quite an awful life that he must be living, because this is a lot of darkness he's carrying, and I wouldn't think anybody that carries this level of darkness is healthy or happy. But I don't know him, so I'm just assuming.
It's just a hellhole, and that's the direction that is heading in Britain, unfortunately.
Is there any part of you that's scared? Do you fear anything, any kind of attack? I'll give you an example. Now, I know that I'm quite happy to speak out against radical Islam. I'm also happy to speak out against Muslims that don't speak out against radical Islam. It's their moral obligation to call out their own community. And I'm happy to say that.
If Steve Laws wants to be racist, then he should be allowed to be racist. I don't know who's expecting to attack him? This is another part of extremism. If Steve Laws wants to be racist, then he should be free to practice that, providing he's not given any authority or any position where he can practice his discriminatory and racism. For example, he should never be in office, in a position of political or government office, because as we are seeing with his views, that they are anything but fair. They are the opposite of fair. In fact, if he was Christian, we would say that he has satanic views, because it's so opposite to how God, who is good, would want him to think and act.
Perspective that I've got Muslim friends, I've sat up drinking and partying and doing real haram stuff with some of my friends I've grown up with that are Muslim, and I've had debates with them. You know, they've got a glass of red wine in their hand and a £50 note hanging out their nose, talking about the Prophet. I'm like, no, you're not a Muslim. So, and you must know well enough by now that I'm as outspoken as most men, and I know that I'm a target for a radical Islamist. They'd love to shut me up, but you could be a target for any non-white, essentially. Yeah. So how do you sleep at night? Do you fear you could come under attack? And, where do you go from there?
To be honest, right, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. If it happens, it happens. I don't walk down the road looking over my shoulder thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get attacked one day. It doesn't bother me. I'm fully aware that there's an awful lot of non-whites that despise me. They see me as like the devil and they want me gone. But the feeling's mutual. So there's not really a problem there.
Nobody should be attacking Steve Laws or anybody else. But once you resort to violence, you've lost the argument.
Like I've said, I've had people turn up at my house before. That's only been a one-off, so touch wood, it doesn't happen again. But ultimately, it's just part and parcel of politics, isn't it? There's going to be the risk that I'm going to get attacked. I do not fear for it. I have 3 children, so I do fear for their future, but they've had no problems in terms of anything, so that's not an issue. But I wouldn't say I'm concerned at all, to be honest. If I get attacked, I get attacked. It is what it is at the end of the day. It'd be no different than any other British person getting attacked.
Do you fear that you could be a target for murder? Do you think somebody could potentially kill you?
I don't know, maybe. That depends how...
What a stupid question. He just told you, Liam, that he's a father of 3 children, and you're asking about murder. What if his children are watching this interview?
Influential I got in terms of politics, but as I stand right now, I don't think there's people out there that generally want to murder me. If they do, it's just sort of like a throwaway comment. I don't think there's anyone really going to be hunting me down.
Yeah, you see, I think very differently. I think we are living in times now where there's so many radicals plonked amongst us that we're kind of playing Russian roulette. But this is like an illegal immigrant and legal immigration thing, but which is a different subject matter. Let me ask you, so let me think of something nice you could say about someone of God. Who's the most attractive black woman you can think of?
I don't think black women are attractive.
Oh my God. So he doesn't think the way he's answered that, you know what he's really saying, that it's not possible for any black woman to be attractive because she's black. That's what I've read into his answer, the way he said it. But let's carry on. Let's see what he continues with.
Not any of them.
Not any of them.
Any Asian women?
White women.
Just
White women. Just only white women can be good looking. Only white women can be attractive, according to him.
white women.
Yeah.
So, for example, if Halle Berry was sat opposite you saying, Steve, let me give you a blowjob, nobody will find out, would you refuse that blowjob?
Yeah, she's brown.
Again, another stupid question, Liam. Why would you want to take it down? Why couldn't you just say, you know, I want to take you out on a date? You don't have to stoop to just such low levels of commentary.
I don't know why you're so shocked.
Yeah, I don't know why you're so shocked. Don't you know a racist when you're sitting in front of one, Liam?
Just thinking about the comment section now.
Comment section can fire away, mate. If it's white, it's all right. If it's brown,
You're not having it.
nah.
What about the police? You must have come under attack by the police. You must be a target for the police, surely.
So,
Because if they must fear that your views will spread further afield, and then they'd have a whole new army of people to deal with on the streets. And remind me to ask you after that question, or if you can remember two questions, could you form an army on the streets, or are you a small minority that are big on X, but you wouldn't be very big on the street? So they're the two questions. Are you a target for the police, and could you form a street movement of, say, 100,000 people?
I'll answer the second one first, so I don't forget it. 100,000 people, no. The only person who can do that in the UK is Tommy. I'll accept that. Everyone can accept that.
Because nobody wants to be racist. There's very few people that are angry enough, that have very little in their life, that are okay to carry the burden and hatred of being racist. And that's what you need to understand. Being in this position that Steve Laws is in, even though he comes across as very cool, calm, as collective to some degree, there's a lot of burden that comes with that. This is not a good mindset. And even if he's able to manage that fairly easily, the average person cannot manage that, because it's an ugly, ugly existence, especially if you live in a city. If you live in a city, you know, and you're coming across different types of people, you know, I mean, what are you going to do? You know, what if you need to get a quick drink, or you need to get a quick bite to eat? You know, eventually, I mean, what if you're like a tradesman, and you know you need money, you got to pay your mortgage, or you got to send your son to university. You're going to turn down work and money from somebody just because they've got a golden suntan and you think they shouldn't be in your country. None of this is logical. It's so bizarre that somebody can come to this position. And, you know, if Liam had better questions, we might be able to get to the bottom of where and how this hatred was born.
But in terms of a street movement, we can very much build a street movement. We're working on it at the moment. But it won't be 100,000 numbers. I'm not going to lie to you. It'd be at a push a few hundred. That's probably
because people don't want to be racist. It's awful to carry that amount of hatred.
the limit was what we could get out onto the street at the moment. But what I can get out, other people maybe had to get out more. But that's probably the best I could get if I really put a lot of effort into it and done it. But in terms of the police, ultimately, yeah, I get a lot of shit. I get arrested at protests. I've had my police knock on my door multiple times. I've been arrested. I'm currently on bail now, but obviously I can't talk about that. And yeah, so I do get a lot of shit from the police, but I think we all do, don't we? If you're a nationalist, most people do get shit from the police, especially if you're slightly influential and people listen to you. So it doesn't.
I'm pro-Britain. I don't get any issues from the police, but then I'm not carrying any hatred. I try to love everybody that's part of the, you know, human family and part of the British community. and I call out those that are causing issues. It's not all nationalists.
It doesn't bother me. They're just doing their job. At the end of the day, they're going to be told, right, go and harass that person. Crack on, mate.
Yeah, I think if you're remotely anti-establishment, you are a target for the police. Somebody, the higher you get up, the more politicised it becomes, and we know what side of the fence they lean on up there, which is a sad state of affairs, because we are, as much as I don't agree with a lot of your views, I'm well aware that we are on the precipice of losing our country for good. And I don't think people realise just how quick that could happen and how quickly you can radicalise people, probably from both sides, but not that I would never, ever compare like an FNAT to a fucking Islamist. So just let's not get that twisted. How would you define...
What? Why would you not compare that? Because they're both extremists and they're both pushing for a very close group, their own group. The similarities are unbelievable. Why do you think the Nazis, the SS soldiers in Nazi Germany, the Nazis were converting to Islam? It's because the similarities are so much. Even now we saw a lot of, at Speaker's Corner, a lot of the racists teaming up with the Islamists. Why was that? You guys need to read up on your history and get some facts and figures together.
On me, because some people think I'm far right. I personally think I'm centre right. I like to think I try and be as fair as possible. Am I what you call a civnat?
I would call you on the cusp of liberal to civic nationalist. I'd say you're a liberal that doesn't like Islam. Fair assessment, I would say. And in terms of your immigration views, I would say you're very much not open borders, but you're not closed borders.
Oh, I am.
But you're not in a way.
I hear something. I wouldn't want any new foreign migration.
So that's fair. You wouldn't want any more to come in.
No. So that's I've got to be open and honest about that. The state that we're in now, I wouldn't want any more foreign migrants entering the country. Not in a million years. Not until we've got our shit together, and then, if they're part of a family that's already here and they can contribute and add to the economy, and they've actually got a genuine skill set and a CV and a DBS check and a criminal record check, then I'd be open to, okay, well, if you can contribute and make the country a better place, I can sit there and I can think about it. That's my honest opinion. But yeah, but it's interesting how you perceive me, because I know that people that you knock about with, because I invited you on after you insulted me on X and I didn't respond. I thought, you know what,
was that? I called you a prat.
You called me a prat. We got bigger battles to fight, and I've been called a lot worse. I thought, well, you sound like an interesting guest. Come on, rather than like all that stuff on X. It's like, yeah, fuck that. Let's talk about the real world. But a lot of people on your side said that I would pull out of the interview and that I'd never have you on. Why did they say that?
Well, it's your circles you run in mostly, because most people in the civic nationalist, liberal, I say civnat just to keep it simple. I'd say most people in the civnat sphere are...
And just what is a civnat, so I'm clear?
So a civic nationalist is basically, long story short, they think anyone can be British.
Right.
Which is a fair assessment of you. You think most people can be British. Your African friends, you think's British.
They're African British. They're not British.
British is British, mate. But I'm not debating you. So
but I'm not saying they're British. No, that's not a debate. But in my mind, I think they're African British. If they held their culture and their views in front of ours, and they'd lived here for their 40 years of living, then I'd say, well, you're not for the country. So I'm
in between.
I'm not really a black and white person. I'm into the nuance, and I do think, okay, well, not everyone's the same, and you've got to make a few allowances here. But I know that I'm a better judge than a lot of other people. So I think if it was under my control, I would be able to sit down, interrogate somebody, and know there'd be a plus for the country, or there'd be a negative for the country.
But do you think, I know not to push back on it a little bit, but do you think that is a logical way to control immigration, where you've got to look at every person, you've got to work them out, and you go, yeah, he's British. No, he's not British. Do you think that's...
What a stupid question. Who's going to sit there behind a desk and ask people to come along on a conveyor belt, and then you assess the person on their skin color as they walk past. No one's asking that. See, when you're so obsessed with a race, with a color of the skin and all this other stuff, this is the type of low IQ questions you would ask. That is such a daft question. I can't believe it's been put in the interview.
I think that's a logical approach.
I get it would be far simpler from a logistical point of view, but I also am mindful that there are other races and ethnicities in the country already that have been here for a lot longer than me, and they've managed to assimilate. And there are success stories within multiculturalism. I'm just kind of being a bit of a dichotomy here, although I know it doesn't work unless there's a top tier culture which is ours, if I'm making sense.
So you want like a caste system like in India, ultimately, where you've got one class.
That's not what he said. Oh, God. Oh, God. He didn't say that at all. He basically said, from my understanding, is that the dominating culture, as it is at the moment, needs to be the British culture, i.e. Christianity, English common law, the Christmas, all the other things. That's what he's saying. He didn't say a caste system. I'm far more stringent than that. I would basically say you have one state religion, aka Christianity. You don't need a mosque on every street corner. You have one per city, only if that population of that Muslim community reaches a certain area. I mean, I would reduce all foreign temples and the rest of it to a bare minimum. I think they are not only eyesores, they're not required. If you want to practice your religion to that extent, then you can go to the origin from where that religion comes from, and you can practice it there, because people only tend to escape as refugees countries where they can't practice their faith, which is the only people that are doing that are Christians. And if Christians are the ones that are coming to this country as refugees, then you don't need foreign mosques, temples and mandirs and the rest of it. You only need Christian churches. It's as simple as that. And then the customs and the language and everything else is all going to flow well with what's already here.
Above and one class below, and ultimately you want the British to be the above class and then all of the immigrants to be below, which is kind of, when you break it down like that, sounds a bit silly, when really you could just remove the foreigners and we just have the British people here, and then there's that.
No, that sounds extreme. That sounds like what Adolf Hitler would say. That's what somebody with a very unhealthy mind would reach to that conclusion. What Liam was trying to say is actually far more fairer, because he doesn't hate other people.
That hierarchy you've got.
But I want the hierarchy. It needs to be done. I mean, you go to Poland, I mean, you can smell the cultural hierarchy in the air. It's beautiful. I can't even tell you what it smells and tastes and feels like. But I quite like some of the foreign people that are here. I enjoy what they contribute. I enjoy the difference. I don't want to live in an echo chamber, but not at the detriment to the country's safety also. So there is leeway with me. There is movement. So let's go back to why your FNAC group didn't think that I'd actually have you on my show.
Because for one, ethno-nationalists and civic nationalists have always tried to have debates. I know this is a discussion, not a debate, but there are a lot of ethno-nationalists that would
I love it how the racists have managed to coin terms like ethno-nationalist just because they don't want to be called Nazis or they don't want to be called racist. I mean, if they're so stringent in what they believe in, then they should be embracing these titles. But why are they running away from them?
like to debate the influential civic nationalists, so both audiences can hear the conversation and they can make their own mind up.
That's just saying that we're not getting enough attention. We want to piggyback on the attention that you get so we can get more attention, and then we'll run away with it. We've seen all this happen, how ethno-nationalists try to undermine the Tommy movement in the past. We've seen how ethno-nationalists, aka Nazis, aka racists, have tried to turn Tommy Robinson followers into racists by grooming them and changing their viewpoint. This is all very, very dangerous rhetoric. And if you want to know the information that a lot of us do of how this group works and operates and how devious they are, you'd easily be bought and groomed into this rhetoric, into this thought process, into this ideology.
But at the moment, a lot of civic nationalists sort of, once they've got their audience, they gatekeep that away from the ethno-nationalists because, God forbid, they hear the truth. And
shut up! It's not to hear the truth. It's because you're racist. It's because you're dark. It's demonic. And we've seen, like I've just said, how you have groomed, or you're not you personally, Steve, how your group has groomed patriots into thinking, with racist views. And unfortunately, some people are not as sharp as they need to be, and they're very easily influenced.
That's kind of problematic. The only person who's done it from the civic nationalist movement who's actually entertained it, other than speaking with you now, was Lawrence Fox. And that debate managed to bring an awful lot of people over to my position.
See, whenever you host these races, they use that platform to propel and bring in more people into their racist fold. That's why I'm criticizing Liam Tough. I'm calling him a bellend for doing this, just like I called Simon Sideways a bellend for interviewing that other Nazi chap. I can't remember his name, Mark something, who's also, AKA civil nationalist, but we all know about the documentary that was made about him, that he's another racist. So, this is what they do. This is their operation style. And I hate to say it, there was this very extreme leftist blog that I left. I mean, I'm talking about far left, and they had infiltrated one of these ethno-nationalist group, and or was it an article? I can't even remember now. And this is what they said. This is what the operation was, that let's infiltrate Tommy Robinson groups and bring in the supporters to us. And he's basically saying the same here. But of course, if you don't know facts from facts, you're not going to be able to decipher what he's really trying to say.
A lot of people messaged me after saying, didn't realize how wrong I was. Once I heard that debate, it's all clear as day. I've moved over to your position and so forth. And that was hundreds of people. So this is why I think a lot of people think these debates won't happen.
You and Lawrence Fox had a debate. What was the debate then?
I've
not seen it.
So it was on an X space. I'll send it to you when we finish this. And ultimately, it was just about immigration, basically, and his position and my position. And obviously, he's kind of more where you're at, to be honest.
I'd like a traffic light meritocracy system, like what Australia used to do. If you qualify, if you contribute, if you're kind, and we've got a full background check on you, then you're welcome. But if you step 1 foot wrong, I mean you fart in a lift, you're going home. That's probably the best way to define my view on it.
See, the obvious problem with that is you look at that's basically what a H-1B visa is in America. And all of the Indians have come over on those visas and taken over all of the work from all of the Americans in the tech industry and so forth, and just completely decimated them. And that's an obvious problem there. When you say, high skilled in what, for one?
Yeah, so just to clarify what he's saying with actual facts and information rather than the racist sheen that he's putting on. So yeah, Indians have gone over to America in the H-1B1, whatever the visa's called, but that's because they have the skill set that is required in Silicon Valley. So they have the skill set, aka they are coders, they are very pro IT. They will work a little cheaper than the local talent. Right. So even though they get around 6 figures US dollars, or certainly around that region, for a lot of the jobs that they do for Facebook, for Microsoft, and so on and so forth, that's still considerably less than what those American firms such as Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Meta, and so on and so forth, even the crypto firms and the broadcasting firms and so on and so forth, are still significantly less than what they would have to pay an American who was born and brought up and educated in America. Having said that, there's not enough Americans skilled in that job to be able to do it. That's why America leads the world in technology, because not only is every single American with the right skill set working for these type of companies, including military, America grabs the talent from around the world, and the number one spot for IT talent is India. It's China, but China likes to keep their IT peeps. And there's some other regions here or there that do okay, but really India is number one. There are Russia and there's Ukraine and a few other countries here or there, but you know that's the situation. So H1B1 visa applicants have not gone there like the Muslims are coming over on the dinghies across the channel. Facebook, Meta, Microsoft, they go actively recruiting in Indian universities, giving them jobs and salaries before they even boarded the plane. And that is through a government incentivized program, which he's mentioning about. But you see, if you were to just listen to him, to the Steve Laws, you'd think like, oh my God, Indians are swimming across the Indian Ocean and then the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, whatever ocean, you know, on a, you know, whichever mode of transport, and, you know, forcing their way over the border. No, they go over business class a lot of the time because they're already earning so much money before they even landed in California, before they even landed in New York or wherever city they're going to be working, because they are brought over as skilled workers. Not like the benefit immigrants that are coming over that are living in Hilton in the UK and then claiming benefits over £1,000, given a free iPhone, free outfit, free food, a free board, and then they get a side job with Uber and earning a further £2,000 that way. It's, you know, the situation is not the same.
Because you always hear of these high-skilled immigrants coming over, and then the next thing you see is they're working at Uber Eats or Just Eat or something like that.
We don't get high-skilled immigrants in the UK, very few, and it's usually medical professionals from what I can work out. I think I've met, in my time in London, I don't live in London anymore, I moved out, but in my time in London, I think I met 2 people which were IT professionals that came over. The rest of them either work in the hospitality or they usually work in the medical fields.
And like, I understand some of them come over and there are doctors and so forth, right? I understand that. But why are we not training our own? Why are we not putting our own people forward for this? Because there's a number of people that apply for those applications that just get rejected, and they just go outright rejected. And then some Indian fella or some Pakistani fella comes dropping in, gets taken onto as a role as a doctor, and that's another role that should be for our people, and they shouldn't even be in the country. Like, I can understand.
Yeah, so that's not entirely true. It's kind of true. I mean, first and foremost, there's not, from my understanding, there's not enough graduates going into the medical field. And there is a continued shortage, certainly from the top level. The problem with the NHS or the medical system is not even so much the shortage of staff. There's plenty of good English, white or British born doctors and nurses. The problem is how the NHS has been set up to fail. There's more managers, aka business managers, running the hospitals, and they are actual hospital staff, and they do absolutely F all. The only sole role is to save money and to look after the budget, and they pass around the budget as if they're, you know, making a difference, but all they're really doing is taking away large salaries and doing absolutely F all. Most of the time, actual nurses are doing behind the desk jobs where foreign workers brought in who are hardly trained to even tie a bandage around a wrist, let alone do proper nurse work. They're brought in to cover the nurses, what nurses should be doing. So the problem with the NHS and everything else is not what he's saying, that they're taking the jobs. NHS is actively looking for foreign workers because it's cheaper staff. So you've got to look at the government to why that is materializing.
That people have sympathetic views towards immigration because they've got a friend that is immigrant or so forth. Most of it, I think, is where you grew up. So you grew up in like London, as you were saying, Crawley, wasn't it? You said
London Overschool. Yeah,
it's a very multicultural area, even back in the 90s and so forth. So you guys have always been around them. So to you, it's normal. It's like a normal thing to have all of these blacks around. But most other people in the country, especially people who come from areas where I come from and so forth, like small little towns on the outskirts, there are no foreigners. It's completely alien. So when you see like gangs of blacks and stuff in London, you're like, how is that even a thing? Because where I'm from, it doesn't exist. And this is kind of where I think the differences in like for CivNats and FNats is sort of coming from. So a lot of like your movement, I'd say, have come from similar sort of backgrounds as you. Like you've all been multicultural areas, whether it's like Crawley, Luton, London, wherever, right? Whereas my sort of movement, they're all been from like small towns, and no one's had like black friends and stuff.
This is an interesting point.
It's very different.
Being a product of your own environment.
Yeah, so you are very much, we're both products of our environment to an extent.
I know who's disingenuous. And the one thing I've got to give you credit for, whether I agree or don't agree, is you've stuck with what you believe in, you've not buckled, and well, you genuinely believe the things that you say and you practice what you preach. And I mean, I wouldn't say the same thing to a radical Islamist, but I do respect somebody that dies on their own sword and is prepared to take massive backlash, which I know that you get. I even know I'm going to get that just for having you here. But it's like, there's no way.
All right, Liam, let's not start sucking each other's cocks quite just yet.
I'm going to let a character like you slide by and me not say, whoa, I've got to find out more about you. Like, how have you come in?
I respect you for coming on, mate. Let me come on. Because like I said to you earlier, most people would just shy away from it. They wouldn't do it. They'd be like, oh, he's too extreme. What he's saying is too...
That's a quote from Pulp Fiction, by the way, before you start cursing me. That's a famous quote from the movie Pulp Fiction. When everybody's starting over-complimenting one person over another.
Radical. I do not agree with that. You've told me outright you don't agree with a lot of what I say, but that's not an issue. I could still sit here and tell you that.
Oh, totally. Well, I think we need more discourse like this. I mean, the only way to get a solution or find alternative routes to success is through conversation. And if you're a free speech advocate, which I am, I'm not a free speech absolutist. I don't agree with call to violence or, call for war, but I'm a free speech advocate. So that means I need to allow someone their free speech. And not just say it, actually mean it and do it. So hopefully by this will showcase the fact that I put my money where my mouth is. We don't agree on everything. In fact, there's a lot of things we disagree on, but it's like, I want to hear what you got to say. This is a free speech platform.
Well, if you share a platform with racists, Liam, you know what they say what you are.
And as we agreed, and I've stuck to my side of the bargain, I've not hammered you or pushed down or anything or tried to squash what because I want to know why you feel this way. And here's a scenario, actually. You know those group of Pakistani men that turned up to your house with baseball bats? I know you dealt with the situation fine, but let's just say it went the other way and they smashed you to pieces with them baseball bats and they smashed your legs in so bad that they nearly had to be amputated and you got shipped to the hospital and an Asian doctor saved your legs from being removed. Would you still want him to go back to his home country?
Yeah, because in my vision of what Britain should be, that would be a British doctor. The only reason it's not is because our people haven't been given those opportunities, and there's so many immigrants in the country now that we need more immigrant doctors to actually treat the immigrants that are coming over. And it's a catch-22. It's like a Ponzi scheme, just keeps going and going and going. Sure, I'd be absolutely grateful that they saved me, but I would still deport them. They're just doing a job at the end of the day. They're paid to do a job. It's no different than me being a painter and I've had to go and paint some foreigner's house. I'm not doing it because I want to do it. I'm doing it because I'm paid to paint that house.
saving your legs is quite a big thing. And also, this is, again, it's hypothetical, but it all has to be because this is a very kind of unlikely situation. But it's just to get an understanding of just how far you're prepared to go. How would you break it to that Asian doctor that saved your legs from being amputated? Would you say, cheers for saving my legs, mate, but you got to fuck off now? How would you word it diplomatically? Or would you just hit it?
They'd get a letter saying you're going to be deported. If they do not respond or anything, then they'd get a knock on the door saying you've got this long, pack your stuff, you've got to go.
Would you sign it at the bottom
Oh my God, how Nazi did that sound? Knock on the door.
and send him a picture of your legs?
I'd say, Steve Law said you're deported, goodbye.
Not even a thanks for saving my legs.
Oh, if it's the person who saved my...
God, this guy is so dark. He's such a narcissist. That's a good question, Liam, I must admit. Not even a thank you. How cold-hearted can you be?
legs were like, thanks for the legs, deport.
Look, he thinks that's funny. He's like, yeah, what do you want me to say?
It's not going to change. You could give me £1 million, I'm still deport you. It's not going to change my opinion.
So you've got 3 daughters.
Yep.
If one of them fell in love with a black man, what would you do?
They've been told not to. They know very much the risks that comes with it. They know my opinions on this, and they will not do so.
But you can't help who you fall in love with.
But you can very much guide your children to stay away from foreign savages.
But
foreign savages. So everybody with brown skin is a foreign savage. That's what my take on what he's just said there.
If they didn't and they accidentally fell in love with a black man, would you disown your own children?
I would not let it happen. I'd go around and make sure that did not happen.
But if they, love is a whole different. There's going somewhere where you're not allowed to go, but when you get chemistry and love, you can't control that. So if that was to happen, and I've seen families destroyed because someone's fell in love with somebody and they've chosen the person they're in love with over their own parents and brothers and sisters. It happens. You've got to be honest. Chemistry you can't fuck around with. So let's do it hypothetically. If one of your daughters fell in love with a black man and wanted to marry him and did marry him, would you disown her?
So here's the thing, right?
This is a politician's response now, Steve.
No, the thing is, right, at the end of the day, as you say, you can't control that, but you can very much teach and mold and guide your children to take the correct decisions in the same way you can encourage your children not to become a crackhead. It's the same mentality. You go, right, stay away from drugs. If someone offers you something, do not take this. If you see your children hanging around with the wrong crowd, you nip that in the bud straight away, and so forth. So there are ways you can do this to prevent that ever becoming a thing. So I wouldn't be too concerned that that's going to happen, because I know that I've raised my children the right way to not do so. They know my views on it. They know an awful lot of everyone else in my family's views on it. They know that it is not acceptable. They know that that is not the right thing to do. It's not, and I've also warned them of the risks that come with that as well. And that they're very woken up. Obviously, I'm not talking about my youngest 2 children, but this is my eldest, because she's close to 15. The youngest are too young for those conversations at the moment. But the eldest very much understands no.
Okay, let me just see if I can squeeze a real answer out of you. And to make it easier for you, I'll give you a bit of my past you probably know about. My dad's a rapist. I disowned him. In fact, I got him sent to jail. I was one of his victims. He didn't rape me, but he abused me. I didn't just disown him. I testified against him and I sent him to jail.
All right, didn't know that about Liam. That's a very strong statement. I'm very sorry to hear that, that you've gone through that, Liam.
So I'm familiar with disowning my own if they do something I don't agree with. So if one of your daughters fell in love with a black man and married him, would you disown her, yes or no? It's a big question.
It's a big question.
Be honest.
Probably, yeah. Wouldn't be happy about it. I don't think that situation will ever come to play, if I'm honest with you, because I've raised my daughters the right way, like as I said to you a moment ago. So I've put all preparations in place to prevent something like that happening. I also live in an area where there's barely any blacks, so that's a bonus. But ultimately, it's a tricky situation. I couldn't really honestly answer it until that situation ever happens.
Well, the thing is, a man with your views, it's a very horrible question to be asked, because you know deep down what the answer really is, and to say it can't be nice. You'd disown your daughter, wouldn't you?
I don't know, to be honest. This is the thing. Like, you could talk about it, but
this could be your American History X moment.
I wouldn't. because I know that for one, I would deal with the bloke; it would be gone.
So I would deal with the bloke; he'll be gone. What do you mean by that?
It'd be out of the way. It wouldn't even. It'd be gone. There'd be no black fella around to be the love of their life, because that'd be gone. That'd be dealt with.
All right. So you would violently eject him from the community or wherever he is.
There's no vision where I see this ever happening. This is why I can't answer the question. It's like sitting there and going, what would you do if oxygen disappeared tomorrow? But I can't envision that ever happening, so I don't know what I'd do.
Yeah, but hypothetically, if it did happen, but you've already answered it. I'm not going to press you anymore. You have said that you would disown.
Probably would. If she came home with a black man, I would not be happy about it. But to say overall disown as in never speak to them again in my life, that's a big thing that I probably wouldn't answer on a podcast. No, like in terms of a final answer.
Have you seen American History X?
Yeah.
Do you reckon you'll ever have an American History X moment where you think, shit, maybe I got it wrong?
The true ending of that film actually was meant to be where he shaves his head again and he goes for it. That was meant to be the original, but the actor sort of bailed out from it.
Is there a scenario that could ever happen, you think, that would make you change your mind?
No. I know what's at stake. The future of our people is more important than any personal grievance I have, any personal alliance I have, or anything. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant what your problems are. It's irrelevant what my problems are. Everyone else. The future of our people is all that matters. And it doesn't matter if some nice Indian guy saved my legs. That doesn't help the future of our people. That just helps me.
And why are you so passionate about preserving the country's identity? And why do British people mean so much to you? Let's tap inside your heart now.
Because there are people. I care for my people deeply. My children, I have 3 daughters, and they are going to grow up into this country. They're going to have families in this country. They're going to have careers and so forth. And all of the people that I want.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because they talked about personal stuff, and I don't think, even though it is kind of good to get a view of what family means to somebody, I just don't think for this type of conversation. He's got 3 daughters. Let that be. He said what he needed to say. It's as simple as that. Keep going back to the whole family situation. I mean, he's clearly got a young family. Just why is Liam keeps going back to that is a little bit beyond me. I don't think it's necessary. I want to leave it there. I mean, I've been harsh on both of them. Obviously, I know that. I do think Steve Laws is a very extremist person. I think he's using certain things and certain narratives to cushion his extremism. I worry for good British people who fall for this racist rhetoric and are brainwashed and groomed into joining them, because when the establishment comes for you and they'll have all the contact details and everything, they'll have them all now. If you know everything about geofencing and tracking, once you've been within 10 meters of somebody with your mobile phone, they know who you've been with, and if you ever go back and how often, the surveillance grid in the UK is beyond comprehension. And sometimes you can understand why the government thinks that it's needed. So I'm just worried about good British people who get brainwashed and groomed into this racist thinking, and what the consequences are. I mean, okay, if somebody is racist and they're willfully racist and they don't need to be brainwashed, then they'll get their just deserves. But my fear is not for those people necessarily. It's for those people who get brainwashed and tricked into thinking. And I've seen it a lot. I've seen it when I used to do the live streams. How people, what they do and what the tricks are. So I think I'm going to leave it there. And maybe it was a bit too harsh on Liam. I'm not sure. I just don't think you need to give extremist racists a platform like this, because all you do is send your viewers and your support over to them. Of course, Liam might have meant to do that. He seemed to have a lot of synergy in parts of the interview, but I don't think he's thought it through. I'm surprised that Tommy Robinson, his friend, didn't let him know that, you know, a lot of his supporters were groomed by the ethno-nationalists, aka racist. But hey ho, that is that. Just bear with me. Got somebody calling me. I'll be back in a sec.
Around them. I want them to be my people. I'm not saying all of our people are perfect. We have plenty of our own wrong-uns, but we deal with our own wrong-uns. The foreigners do not belong here. They're not the same as us. They're completely alien to how we live. Sure, there may be the odd one or two that can sort of blend in to some extent, but they still stand out like a sore thumb when push comes to shove.
Okay, well, funnily enough, from all the people that could have called me, that was our good man Raj Speaker's Corner. So I'm going to call him and I'm going to have a chinwag with him. But thank you, everybody who joined and watched. A lot of these type of live stream and reviews can get a little bit prickly, shall we say. You know, we can all get a little bit annoyed at what people say and people think, and what was said and what wasn't said, and what was asked and what wasn't asked. And you know, I'm sure that if I was to rephrase some of the questions, rephrase some of even my statements, I would definitely try to say my statements better. So you know, no offense to anyone that I've commented against. I'm just sharing my thoughts and opinions. I definitely don't think anybody should be attacked physically for their thoughts and beliefs. But I also think that some people should not go anywhere near any authoritarian or authoritative position if they have extremist, discriminatory, can't get my words out, views. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I'll catch you all soon, maybe tomorrow. Ciao.